I am open to week 4, where we will be covering chapter 3, Sensation and Perception. So I'm going to walk you through the week of just what to expect and some things to zone in on. Here is your to-do list for the week, and I do really recommend doing this list in this order. In terms of the content and the material that you're taking in each week, it makes sense to do it kind of in a particular order as I would do it if we were in person in class. So you definitely want to make sure that you review the objectives for chapter 3, and those are right here. You can actually listen to the podcast that I made where I go over each of these and explain a little bit more in detail. That would be really helpful. And again, be using these objectives to help guide your reading. It's nice to overview the chapter before you start reading and even have these next to you as you read to make sure that you're getting all the key points as you're going, and then that helps make a nice study guide for you for later as well. Once you've done that, then you're ready to print out your lecture slides, which are here. And then you might want to have those next to you, or at least open them up and have them next to you, so that you can bridge what's on lecture versus what you're reading. So then the next part would be to read chapter 3, as well as read Hawk 2.1. And the title of that reading is called Take a Long Look. It's all about perception of infants and how we know what infants can perceive and why it's important, and how we measure infant perception. So it's a carve out, again, of material that you're also going to find in chapter 3. So really, you should be reading this chapter first. Then you'll have a nice overall sense of what is involved in sensation and then what's involved in perception. And you'll better be able to understand then this reading, which is actually by Fantz. So Hawk talks about Fantz's original research in this area of infant perception. And then you're going to use both those readings, which will tie into your week 4 discussion board for the week. So here's your lecture slides. Here's cite as you write instructions that you'll want to use when you do your discussion board posts. But before you dive into those posts, after you've read, you then want to make sure that you watch the videos. So there are some videos embedded in the lecture slides that you can watch. There are also some videos that are embedded in the reading. So when you're reading through your e-text, there's points that you'll come to, and there'll be little carve outs that you can stop and watch videos. It's really essential that you're watching all those videos as you're reading. Those are things I would be showing in class if we were in class together. And the best part is that you can watch them at your leisure. If you need to rewatch them more than once, you can. This is a chapter that covers a lot of detail in terms of just the body, how we sense things in all our senses, and that brings a lot of detail when it gets to the eye and the ear, especially. There's a lot of anatomy there, a lot of new terms, and so you'll want to make sure that you spend some time here with that. So the first half of the book is really the sensation piece, and then the second half is perception. Well, how do we make sense of all of it? Once our body takes in input and perceives stimuli, what does it do with it then? How do we make sense of the stimuli that we take in from the world around us? So I've attached 2 videos here for you. This one's Sensation and Perception, crash course video, and then Perceiving is Believing. This one's kind of a fun one. It deals more with like visual illusions and just how perception can be tricky, depth perception, and different kinds of visual cues that we use from our environment. Okay, so those are the videos, and then you'll be ready to do your discussion. So again, you'll want to be incorporating chapter 3 and the reading into your answers here. And so the questions that are for this week are, why would it be built in, or I should say innate, for infants to prefer looking at the human face? Why do infants have that preferential looking pattern for the human face? And I want you to explain that from an evolutionary perspective. So a big hint here is you may need to go back to chapter 1, where it discusses evolutionary psych and what it's all about and why it's important and why it's a key theme in psychology. Refamiliarize yourself with that if you need to, so that you can then answer why infants have this innate sense of wanting or being drawn to look at the human face. Next, what types of research questions might a developmental psychologist ask today about infant perception? So what kind of modern, current kind of question would a developmental psychologist be interested in? So you might need to go back to chapter 1 again and, refamiliarize yourself with, okay, what is developmental psych? What kinds of things do they look at? Obviously, they look at development across the lifespan of the individual, so everything from infant to geriatric populations. And so they're going to be interested in developmental stages. What would they want to know today that isn't already known about infant perception? So you want to, maybe this is where you can use some creativity, come up with something new that you think maybe we don't already know about infant perception. So it also requires you reading really well in the half of the book that covers perception to kind of know what questions have been asked and what questions haven't. And then lastly, you're going to briefly design a study. It can be experimental or correlational. You may need to go back and check and make sure you understand what those two study designs entail. Design a study to examine a current research question that you came up with in number 2. So number 2, you're developing some kind of a research question that a developmental psychologist might ask about infant perception. And then number 3 is, well, then how would you do a study to answer that question? What kind of methodology would you use specifically to be able to answer that kind of a question? So I'm looking here for you to integrate in chapter 1 a lot this week with research methods in psychology. And this is important because all throughout the semester, you're going to be building off of things that you did earlier, and chapter 1 is going to keep coming back up. It's one of those pivotal chapters because it has the research methods stuff in it. Okay, and then lastly is your quiz. Quiz number 3, you will have until Friday evening to finish that. It covers chapter 3 and is just like the other quizzes that you've done. Okay, and that wraps up the week. Please remember that you want to make sure that with your discussion posts that you're responding to the original question by Friday, and that you're waiting to respond to other people, your 3 responses, until after everyone's posted. So after that Friday, due date, you can then go ahead and respond to 3 other people. And I do this because I want to make sure everyone has an equal opportunity to have someone comment on their posts. If everyone picks people early in the week to comment on, then we get left with a big chunk of students who don't have enough people to comment on or have their stuff commented on. So I kind of do it to spread it out and make it even for everybody. So just check that you're doing that, and you should be fine there. Please remember also that I have Zoom office hours. So if you need help, if you want to talk about the concepts or have any questions, I encourage you to set up an appointment with me. You just have to email me and let me know, and we can set up a Zoom meeting, and I can go over any information with you that you're needing. Okay, thanks everyone.